Hi, I'm Lillian. Welcome back to my channel. I am today going to be doing the Reading Habits book tag. I am very pleased to be doing this video because when I first found BookTube like 5 years ago, book tags were literally all the rage. Everyone was doing them. I loved watching them. When I had my book blog, I loved doing the tags on my blog. They'd only get like 2 views and one of them was me. But it was like really fun. But then in like the last couple of years, book tags have definitely, I think, died down a lot on BookTube. But then I saw Noel Gallagher doing this video like a couple of days ago and I was like, hallelujah, it's official, book tags are cool again, so I'm gonna do this one. I think this tag was originally created by Ariel Bassett, so if I'm correct, I will link her video down below. If I'm wrong and it was someone else, I'll link their video, and I'll also link Noel's as well. But this is also a little unusual for me because I have not really prepared for this. I'm kind of winging it and I am not a spontaneous person. Literally ask anyone who knows me. I've filmed this introduction like 3 times now because guess what? Didn't have a clue what I was saying. This is the furthest I've got in a take, so I'm hoping I can keep this going. But yeah, let's jump into the questions. Question 1 is, do you have a certain place at home for reading? My answer would be like, not on purpose, but I guess my bed is like my designated reading spot. I haven't like purposefully made it cozy and I always think, oh yeah, it's time to sit down and read now in bed. Just kind of happens. I mean, very rarely I'll sit downstairs on the sofa in the living room. But yeah, calling either of them a certain place for reading feels a little bit false. But I guess that's kind of the answer. Question 2 is bookmarks or random pieces of paper. I kind of have to say both. If I have a bookmark easily at hand, yeah, sure, I'll use it, but I mostly don't. So it is kind of like a little bit of a novelty when I'm actually reading a book and have a bookmark to mark my place. I think in my current read, number 9 Dream, I do have an actual bookmark. There we are. Bookseller Crow on the Hill, a bookshop in Crystal Palace. But literally, I'll mostly use like scraps of paper, receipts. Very often when bookshops were still open, I would buy books from them. I'd literally use the receipt for the book itself as a bookmark because I just tuck it in the front cover, forget it was there, and then eventually pick up the book and be like, oh, a handily, readily available bookmark. So although my answer is like probably both, I am going to say I'm more of a scrap paper kind of person. Question 3 is, can you just stop reading or do you have to stop after a chapter / a certain number of pages? I can pretty much just like stop reading in the middle of a paragraph and use my whatever I'm using as a bookmark and then drop the book and come back to it later. I'm very much not someone who has to make it to the end of a chapter or make it to the end of a section to feel like satisfied with where I'm leaving the book before I go off and do something else. I'm very kind of chill. I'll just literally stop wherever I am, come back to it later. Maybe I'll have to reread half a page to figure out exactly where I was before I left off, but I'm not super bothered about that. And actually I didn't realize this was like an issue worthy of having a question in a book tag. So maybe I've just been doing it wrong my whole life, but that's what I've been doing and it works for me. Question 4 is, do you eat or drink while reading? I would have to say no, not really. I might have like a mug of hot chocolate with me while I'm reading, but usually I'll read in like a really awkward position where I'm like lying down and it'll be very awkward to like have the book and then drink my hot chocolate at the same time. So I'll probably just drink the hot chocolate separately while on my phone and then go back to reading. This was not always the case, up until pretty much the age of like 17 or 18, which was when I got my first like iPhone. I would always read at breakfast and I'd like wedge the book up against my bowl of cereal and just eat like that. And then once I got my first iPhone, I started just like going on my phone every day at breakfast, and that habit has basically never left me. But until then, I would eat and read basically every day. And this is kind of noticeable on the days when I would have pancakes for breakfast, those rare occasions where I would get to smother them in Nutella while also attempting to read my book, which has left me with several books with Nutella stains on the pages. I'm going to see if I can find one. It's going to have to be kind of an old book. Okay, this one's just water damaged, no Nutella stains. I know I have one. I know I have several with Nutella stains on them. They're not within arm's reach of me right now and I can't bother to stand up. But yeah, basically, if a book belonged to me, it was in serious danger of getting food stains on it. Okay, question 5 is multitasking, music or TV while reading? Definitely not. can't do that. It's actually a massive pet peeve of mine when I can hear other people's music, or like even if I can hear other people like having a conversation when I'm sitting and trying to do something on my own, in maybe not in silence but like in my own little bubble, and I really don't like when the outside world kind of impinges on that. So watching TV while reading would just like absolutely mess me up. My brain would not be able to handle it. I would hate it. And same with music, like the words of the song and the words in the book would like clash. I wouldn't be able to pay attention. I think possibly the only exception to this would be if I could hear someone else playing music or watching TV or whatever, I might plug into YouTube and watch like the 10 hours of rainfall videos and like turn it up a lot so that all I could hear was like fake rain noises. That's literally the only thing you could catch me listening to while I try and read. And yes, I do have a favourite rain noises video. It's 10 hours long. Never had to listen to the whole thing in one go, but I would highly recommend it. Question 6 is one book at a time or several at once. And I've always been so jealous of people who can switch between multiple books and always seem to remember what was going on and never like hit a sort of reading slump and never forget to go back to a book to finish it while you're flicking through lots of different ones at once. I think that's so impressive. Unfortunately, it's not something I'm capable of doing. When I pick up a book, it's very much like, okay, I've made a monogamous commitment to this book to read it all the way through. And if I do, for some reason, stop reading it and pick up another book before I finish that first book, it feels like, I don't know, not like I'm divorcing the book, but it feels like a big choice where I've decided this book is no longer good enough for me and I'm now making a commitment to this other book. So it feels more monumental than it actually is. But that's my way of saying, usually I like to read one book at a time. And yes, the same for like audiobooks and ebooks. I can't be someone who has like one physical book on the go and then potentially I'll listen to an audiobook on my commute and then also have an ebook on my phone for wherever I'm standing in a queue. I can't even do it where I have like the same book and I'll switch between listening to the audiobook of something and then also having the physical book. It's kind of annoying for me, to be honest. I wish I could switch it up more easily because then I would read more and I'd get through books quicker if I could switch formats so effortlessly. But it's just not something I can do, and I'm very happy mostly just reading the physical copies of books, so like I'm not worried. And question 7 is reading at home or everywhere. Even before lockdown, I would have said reading at home. I know that it's great advice to bring a book with you whenever you're trying to read more so that if you do have a spare 5 minutes, you can whip out the book and read it. The thing is, I just quite often forget to do that. And also, I do feel like for me, reading is kind of like a calming internal experience. Usually that consists of me sitting on my bed, reading on my own in silence. So doing that outside the house, whether it's at like a coffee shop or on the train, I don't know, it feels like too much for me. It's not the ideal environment for me to read. So yeah, I do normally read at home. So that means that if I do actually make the effort to bring a book with me out of the house, potentially bring it to work so I can maybe read it on the train, that means I really like that book. And the most recent example of that would be when I reread Red, White and Royal Blue. It was the first book I read this year. It was a reread and I was like, oh, I loved it so much, even the second time around, that I took it into work with me to read when I had like my lunch break, and I even read it on the train home as well, which means that I was definitely loving it because I never do that. Question 8 is reading out loud or silently in your head. So because I'm quite a fast reader in that it's a very quick process for me to see a word, know what it says, understand it, and then like absorb it into my brain. Because that's very quick for me, that's how I read. I don't ever read out loud. I know that some people, as they're reading, will not say the word out loud, but sort of say it in their head as if they're reading it aloud, kind of like an internal monologue, that kind of speed. And that just really doesn't work for me because I can read so much quicker when I'm not doing that. Me reading is a much quicker process than me speaking out loud. And actually I didn't realise that was a thing people did until like kind of recently, to be honest. So that's just something I never do. Question 9 is, do you read ahead or even skip pages? Sometimes, but accidentally, I promise. I'm not someone who will like skip to the end of a book and read the ending first. That's like absolutely cannot compute why you would do that. I'm sorry, I just can't. But sometimes when I'm reading, like my eyes will automatically jump briefly over onto the mirroring page and I might read a sentence which then spoils me for something that happens at the end of the other page, and that's really annoying because I can't stop myself from doing that sometimes. So that's like the only time I would skip ahead while reading. Unless, say, we were 7 years ago and I was still at school and I had to read a book and it was really boring and I just wanted to skip ahead, like then yeah, sure, For instance, we had to read A Clockwork Orange in our year 12 or 13 English class, and I hated it. Worst book I ever read. Hated it so much, didn't finish it, like literally just skipped ahead to the end. But as I'm no longer in school and don't have to read books I don't like, I never skip ahead in a book. Question 10 is breaking the spine or keeping it like new. I'm kind of middle ground here. Like, I wouldn't go around actively breaking the spines of my books, but also if I'm reading it and the spine gets broken in the process, like, I really don't care. And I do quite like looking at my old books that are childhood favourites that I've had for years and years. I've reread them countless times, and being able to see on the shelf that they look a bit battered and the spine is broken in loads of different places, because it means I have really loved it enough to reread it and hang on to it all of this time. I think this is quite a good example. Mortal Engines. The spine is like quite busted, and this is one of my favourite books of all time. Same also with Skybreaker again. I've loved this book. Like, it's water damaged, it's busted, the spine is cracked in so many places, you can barely read the author's name on the spine, and it's because I love it so much. I just love it. And I know that lots of people are like more protective of their books than me, and they will make more of an effort to preserve the spine and keep it in good condition, and I mean, that's their prerogative. If it's your book, you can decide what you want to do with it, if you want to like rip it up and burn it, or if you want to keep it in a glass cabinet and like basically try not to breathe on it, or if you're anywhere between those two extremes, you can do what you want. Just like don't go around breaking the book spines of other people, I guess. My friend Nell has what I think is a hilarious anecdote and what she thinks is tragic. I think she was in her English GCSE class, and I can't remember what book it was they were reading, but the teacher wanted to borrow it for a sec, so I think the teacher picked it up, and Nell is someone who's very precious about her spine. She really like takes a lot of effort to keep them in pristine condition. And the teacher picks it up, I'm gonna do a demonstration, and like picks it up and goes like that with it. And now I picture it as the moment in Mean Girls when she snaps the tiara and what's his name is like in the crowd. Like, that's how I picture Nell reacting. So that was a dick move by the teacher. She shouldn't have done that to Nell's book. And so the moral of the story is don't break other people's spines. And the last question, question 11, is do you write in your books? I do not. Again, not because I'm particularly precious about them, but just because I don't think it would look very nice, and I don't particularly like how that looks. And also I think if I was reading a book which I, or even someone else had written in, had like annotated, when I turn a page and there was writing on it, I think I would automatically read that writing first and then read the text, and sometimes like obviously that's spoilery and it doesn't flow properly, but I think I would like automatically read that bit first, which is why I don't do it. But if I do read a passage of a book which is like a really beautiful quote or something that I want to remember, I literally just like take a photo of me like pointing at it and like take a photo of it like that. So it's not a very nice photo, it's got like my finger awkwardly in it, but that is how I memorialize nice quotes. So yeah, those were my reading habits. I hope I did not traumatize anyone too much by breaking a book spine so blatantly on camera. But if I did, I sincerely apologise, and I hope you stick around to watch my next video as well. Bye!